So those are the scores that we like to see, 580 to 620 credit scores when we're doing some seller financing or loaning out our IRA money.
Okay.
And those are the same scores that a lot of the banks want to use as well.
Great. So it's really interesting you get to that point, and now you're underwriting and originating paper, getting the collateral file together for these people. And then when you create these notes, there's no promise or guarantee that the borrower, for no fault of their own, go through slumps and issues and problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
It could be a health situation, could be a job situation, could be a marriage situation, could be a kid situation. We have numerous reasons throughout the years why people don't perform. And a lot of times it's no fault of their own, right? We've heard the stories. The kid gets sick. I ain't paying my mortgage payment. I'm gonna make my kid better. And we all get that. I mean, it makes sense to all of us parents. So, but when we have people out there that do things like this, who underwrite everything, do everything right, and then for whatever reason, don't make the payment, right? What is the process from that point, from a bank situation, to retrieve some of their money retrieve their money that's in the deal, for those who may not understand what that process is? So if a loan goes 120 days, the bank has to take legal action. What does that look like in the bank situation?
Okay, so I'm gonna hit you with something in reference to some loans are backed by the government. So some loans have PMI on it.
Yep.
And if a loan is backed by the government, PMI will help cushion that blow after the foreclosure is completed. Foreclosure has to be completed. A lot of stuff that we see in our world has no PMI on it. Let's be clear. There are some loans that still have some PMI on it, because I know some loans that we had purchased that were housed at BSI did have some PMI on them, and we were able to file those claims. But you have to complete the foreclosure before you can do anything to see where your loss is going to be.
Okay.
You either have to go through a judicial process or a non-judicial process. That means that you either have to go through the court and a judge makes a decision, or you have somebody like Matt Kelly and you go through trustee court, and it's sold at the court on a court step, and that's how the asset is sold, and they're taking the action of the note, and the asset, I'll say the asset is recovered. When I say the asset is recovered, we get the I'm sorry, you guys, somebody's at my door.
So good. Real-time video.
You get the asset back, or it's sold to a third party.
Sure.
If it's sold to a third party, doesn't mean that you're going to recover your full entire balance. And what I mean by that is that, so let's just use round numbers, $100,000. $100,000 of property sold, but you're owed $200,000.
Mm-hmm.
And the property goes and there's a deficiency balance because of the asset. It's gone, and you can't, you didn't recover all your money at the sale.
Right.
To define what deficiency balance means to an investor.
You're negative. You were owed 200, but you only recovered 100.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some states that there's deficiency is barred. So the ACA has a template that will tell you if you can pursue a deficiency balance or not. So the ACA is the Association of Credit and Collections Professionals. It's something that you guys can join.
Cool.
And it's a great place for credit and collection people. The ACA is also a place where you can actually also know what you can, what you need to do if you want to be licensed to be a servicer. But it's a great place to learn compliance rules and regulations about our world.
Sure.
But that is they have every state, every rule, every regulation on deficiency balances that you can pursue or you can't pursue. So we had a template, and we use Salesforce at the hedge fund that I used, that I worked for. And when we finished the foreclosure, after we were done, we would either mark it deficiency barred or deficiency not barred. and we would mark it. And if we had a deficiency balance, we would tell the attorney, pursue deficiency balance if we were able to. We would just mark it and we would know that we were able to pursue that balance.
Gotcha.
And
How many states do you think that it's barred in? I don't have the states, so curious, what do you think your guesstimate is? How many states don't allow you to go after that?
probably about 30%.
Wow,
Okay.
that much.
I
Okay.
think about 30%. So you have to think about the friendly states.
Nice word for it.
I'm just saying you have to think about the friendly states.
Yeah.
And
So not California.
well, I mean, just think about that. Look what you got to do to get somebody out of a house in California.
This
Yeah.
is true.
You might be bankrupt by the
I'm
time you get
presuming
somebody out
Texas
of
how
there.
you do it.
So after you've completed everything, you've liquidated the asset, and there's still money owed to you, you're in the deficit.
Mhm.
Can you collect that money?
Sure.
According to your note, yes.
Mhm.
The mortgage is gone. The asset is gone. So this is why you have two different instruments. You have a note and you have a mortgage. Now the house is gone, the collateral is gone, but this is why you now have the mortgage, and that's the instrument, that's the promissory note that now you can now enforce.
Yeah. So the mortgage is the lien on the property that secures the property to the IOU, right? So
Right.
when you go after a mortgage, you're going after a lien position situation, and that lien's now gone. But that person still owes you an IOU based on the terms inside the promissory note.
Right,
If you have a house that you sell at the auction for 100,000 because it's upside down or whatever reason, but you're owed 200,000 according to the legal balance, you have the legal right in those states to go after the $100,000 personally because that person still owes you that money.
correct.
Mhm.
So that was probably just as clear as mud. But so I had one in Ohio. I'll give you a
Awesome.
factual statement. I mean, a factual story. So we had one in Ohio that we actually had purchased a note in Ohio, and it was a net city note, and it went to foreclosure sale, and it was a condo that foreclosed. The association foreclosed, and we thought we had got wiped because the condo had foreclosed, and so there were surplus funds after the condo association had foreclosed, and we said, well, do we want to actually fight this? What do we want to do? So we actually filed for the surplus funds from the HOA foreclosing. We took those funds and we made a decision to actually pursue the note, and we went through the collateral file, and we found that he had a checking account and he still had money in the bank from the original file. It was still at the bank, and we popped his checking account and we got $46,000.
Ooh.
First pop.
That's
And
a nice
then he didn't take his money out the bank. He kept on putting money in there, and we went back because we didn't recover all of our money, and then we got like another like $12,000 or $13,000 about 4 or 5 months later.
Wow.
And this took like about a year and a half. It wasn't like an overnight process, but it was a pretty sweet deal.
Yeah.
What is the process to start that deficiency judgment against someone? Is it during the foreclosure period? Is it after?
It's after. So the foreclosure has to be completely done, and the foreclosure has to be closed. And then you have to tell the attorney that you want a deficiency judgment. They get the deficiency judgment, and then you can do a wage attachment, you can do a bank attachment, and then once you get that and you actually know where there's assets, then you actually have the attorney's office take care of that paperwork and send it in, and you get the attachment. You get it granted and you get the money. And
So
they have
how often does that happen these days? Like I only started seeing equity in about 2018. And now that seems like all I ever see is loans equity, excuse me, in the property. So are you still seeing that today where there's a surplus there where you can go after that?